Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Silly Sapphic Snowflake. I will get better at saying it. It really is a tongue twister. Maybe the woke kids will start saying that instead of what was the one that you did in school? PP, 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 PP. What is it? Peter Piper picked that one. So yeah, the new one's going to be Silly Sapphic Snowflake. For all those little snowflake kids. Anyway, welcome to today's episode. We're going to cover a few things today. It's been, as always, one of those weeks where you look at the news, you look at the media, and you think, shit, wow, people really are that stupid. But you know what? We'll obviously start with the silly because we've got to start with a little, bit of fun. But I thought, first of all, I haven't really done an introduction to who I am on this kind of new format of the podcast. Also, sorry if I keep on looking there. Obviously, you won't be able to see that if you're just audio. I've actually got my laptop here and I can see my beautiful face. So I'm self-obsessed. No, I keep on it. When I'm speaking, it like has the purple thing around it and it distracts my ADHD brain for a moment. So I'm so sorry. But if you're an audio listener, you won't see my distractions. But anyway, but yeah, I thought I'd do a little introduction to who I am because I haven't done one on here and cover some bases because I think it's important understanding a bit of background from someone in order to know if you want to listen to what they've got to say, but also to kind of give context as to why they have certain views or things like that. My name's Em, originally Emily, as were probably half of the females born in 1994, which was the year I was born. 94 tattoo on my arm for those who are visual learners. Okay, me, so that I can remember when I was born. Anyway, yeah, a lot of Emily's. So became M very, very soon. And I just feel like M's more me. Emily always feels like a dainty frolic in the park. And I'm not a dainty frolic in the park kind of gal. Talking about gal, I also have maybe a little bit of a complicated relationship with my gender. I don't want to be a boy. I don't really mind being a female, but I really do enjoy when people use they them pronouns for me. So I always put my pronouns as she/they. And how I kind of explain it to people who don't get it, which is a lot of people, is that I'm kind of giving people the option of what they want to call me. I also do when I get he him. Sometimes I'm ecstatic. We went to a chippy the other night, and I got called Boss Man, and that was magnificent. But yeah, she they. I'd say I'd compare that to the fact that my name is Emily, and I prefer people to call me Em. I don't mind if people call me Emily. Call me Emily if you like. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't make me feel shit. It Emily has been my name for my whole life. It is legally my name, so I don't really care. And that's kind of the same way I feel about being a woman. I kind of love the aspects of being a woman, womanhood. A lot of it, that we've had to kind of fight for what we have as women. And I love other females and I love the kind of groups of females that I connect myself with and, our sisterhoods that we have. But I don't kind of like a lot of things about womanhood. And that's kind of similar with my name, Emily. I know that it's a part of me, but I kind of prefer M because it feels more me. And that's how I feel about they. It feels more me because I feel like I've struggled for a long time with who I was. And then when I started dressing more like androgynously, that's not the word, androgynously, maybe that is the word. I started loving myself more and I really everything improved in my life, really. I spent years trying to look for love, and when I started being myself, I then fell into the arms of the most perfect girl in the world. And I've been with her 3 years and it's fantastic. So yeah, that's my relationship with gender. But yeah, so it's such a spectrum. Who fucking decided one day that people with a penis were going to wear trousers and people with a vagina were going to wear dresses, and that was it, you know? So that's my relationship with that. I am a lesbian. If the whole girlfriend thing didn't quite sink in with you, I came out. So I am going to be 32 this year. I know. For those of you who are visual watchers, I know I look young for my age. And my dad says the lovely line that is, "Fat don't crack." And I have a little chubby face, so that's why I don't have that many wrinkles. But it will catch up with me. I know it will. But I am very lucky because my mum and dad are both in their 60s and look unbelievable. Unbelievable. And, you know, they've lived. They've lived and they, you know, have had stressful times in life, but it's not impacted their faces. It really hasn't. They are still gorgeous as ever. Ever. So yeah. So we'll talk about my parents now. So obviously this podcast is, a lot of it will be about politics and, you know, obviously left wing things. So I grew up and I went to a private school. Switch off your computers now, turn them off, because I'm clearly a knobhead because I went to private school. But I think so I went to a private school. I think I went to a younger private school, like before I'd gone into actual school, but I remember going to like the big school and I had to do an entrance exam at age 7. My parents, my mum is from Aberdeen. She grew up with a mum who was a teacher. Her dad was in the Navy, I want to say. Yeah, he was in the Navy. I never met him. That's why my knowledge isn't as great. But she lived a normal life. Obviously, she was very sheltered in that part of Scotland. And then she studied really hard and went to the Royal Academy, I think, with the Royal Academy, and did opera, and then was touring opera for years. And then when I was born, she stopped that and started working in M&S for a while, you know, just to have a job. And then she ended up, through my dad, who I'll get into before, being a vocal coach. And that is now her job now. And she does some fun work. She gets to work with really cool people. She gets to go on tours. She was doing TV shows when I was growing up, and she's given me an incredible life, and she worked really hard for it. And obviously, coming from somewhere quite rural, I think she thought sending me to private school, sending me and my brother to private school was the best thing for us. But we'll come on to that. And then my dad, he, young boy, lived in Luton, grew up in Luton. Shout out Luton, but also not shout out Luton, because guess who else is from there? Andrew Tate and Tommy Robinson. But my dad's from there, and he's our woke king, so we've got to give him that. But yes, my dad, he was, his mum was a shopkeeper, and his dad was, I'm pretty sure, in the army as well. His mum got cancer when he was like, I'm going to say 10 or something. And then she died when he was 12. So it was not a nice thing for him, but he kind of didn't deal with those emotions at the time. And he then went on and did amazingly for himself. He became a journalist, first of all. I'm pretty sure he was writing for like a local newspaper. And then from journalism, he then went into the music industry. He was managing bands such as Deacon Blue, Bros. He was a big timer. And now, funnily enough, he is cabin crew. I think it was during COVID. So my dad has a couple types of cancer. And just before COVID, he was undergoing treatment. So he had chemo, radiotherapy, for those. And then he's got one cancer that's kind of building up, making its feet, and it's still there. So eventually treatment will be on the cards. But when that all happened, he kind of just left the music industry, really. I think he was kind of getting away from it a lot. My dad, he won't mind me saying because he will tell everyone, and their brother has been sober for nearly 10 years. And that was, I think, a big turning point for him. And he's always loved traveling. And I remember, I think it was after COVID or maybe during COVID, when he applied for 2 jobs. And one job was cabin crew, and one job was, I'm pretty sure it was driving buses for Stagecoach. And I'm glad he picked cabin crew because I just think that was the better option for him. But yeah, at 60 years old, he quit what he'd done, since he got a job, and yeah, became cabin crew, and he absolutely loves his life. Every day he's posting on his Instagram saying #grateful, which I do often take the piss of. And he says #to fly to serve, which sometimes I change to #to fly to slay. And yeah, he's a great guy. So that is who they are. They then decided to send me to private school, and my brother. For my brother, I think private school was great for him. He works, I'm pretty sure, for the Dutch government, something like that. He works like in waterworks. I feel like no one knows what their brother does, but he lives in Amsterdam. He does something like that, and he went to King's College. He always wanted to do something that was like geopolitical, or I don't know, something to do with geography and politics, I guess. So that really gave him the stepping stone, which it shouldn't, because you should be able to do whatever job you want from whatever background you come from. But that really did give him the stepping stone to do what he wanted to do. However, private school, I think, obviously there were so many opportunities that we were given while we were there, and things that some people wouldn't have been able to do at school, and I am completely so grateful for all those things. However, I don't think that I am any better because of going to private school. I think I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD when I was 27, so about 4 years ago. Well, 28, 27, about 4 years ago. And in school, I just felt stupid. I felt out of place. I felt so worthless, because it felt like your worth was really based on whether you could go to Oxbridge, or you could be the best person in the team at any given sport, or you could be the main character in a show. And I did the main character in the show parts quite a lot of the time, but I never felt like I fitted in. And I don't think that I have got anywhere that I want to be because of going to private school. I think in some cases, I think it held me back because I felt horrible and I didn't feel like I fitted in there. So I think I recognize my privilege, and I recognize the privilege I have to have gone to that school and the upbringing I have. And I wish private schools weren't a thing. I really do, because I don't think that it's fair that some people miss out because of their background. And, you can see from Reform Party or any political party, really, the amount of people who are just friends from private school, and it's bizarre and disgusting. But the one thing I am really grateful for is that despite being in a private school and being surrounded by people who were probably Tories and whatever, I'd always ask the question to my dad when it came up about political parties and things like that. And I knew that everyone voted Conservative, but I knew my dad voted Labour, and at one point him and my brother even were Labour councillors, which is a bit mad. Yeah, so I always asked him, like, why do we vote for that and not Conservative? And he always said, because it's not about us. Yeah, we, at the time, my mum and my dad were both self-employed, and they always were self-employed growing up, so they've always said that they would have been better off with a lot of the things that the Conservative government wanted to do in terms of tax breaks and things like that. But he always said it's not about us. We're not fighting for the difference between a meal on the table or not. It would be selfish to vote just thinking of yourself. And that's something that's always stuck with me. However, the first time I voted, now I didn't really care about politics at that age. I think I went to uni and I started becoming more political and understanding things. I think at that age, you just kind of do what everyone else is doing. And it was the first time I could vote, the first time I was 18. I'm a July baby, so it was like the year after I turned 18 and like just before I was going to turn 19. And it was for like police crime commissioner. And I've always known that my brother and my dad didn't like the Tories and blah, blah. So I remembered I voted Labour, and my dad always thinks he's going to catch me out on this one day, but I did vote Labour. I voted Labour. But I mean, it's not something to be proud of now. But I remembered the name of the Conservative person on the card, and I went out to the card with my dad, and I was like, he goes, "Oh, who'd you vote for?" I went, "Oh, well, it was," and I read the name of who it was, and I was like, "I'm not sure what party they are," like winding up, and he's like, "That's Tory one." I was like, "Yeah, that's who I voted for," winding him and my brother up because I would do anything to wind them up, and at the time, I didn't really understand the whole political thing. So my dad and my brother always say to me, "Well, you voted Tory." I did not, and I stand for that. So yeah, anyway, that is my kind of upbringing and what's made me the person I am. And my mum also is very left wing. She really understands that it's not about them, it's about other people. And she's so empathetic. And even the only thing I've ever struggled with my mum on would be that she would say when we were growing up, well, you can still be friends with people who have different political views, which I think at that time was definitely fair enough. However, I personally believe that it's become like a fine line between someone's political views and their moral compass. And I don't think I could align myself with someone who was, opposed to people, say, for example, trans people having human rights. Like that's not someone I could have in my circle. And so that's, the bit of struggle. But I think I don't think she'd ever be friends with anyone who was a reform voter or anything like that. So yeah. And also one of her best friends is a very, very political lady, very left wing. So she can't escape it. So anyway, I've rambled on a lot, but we're going to move on to our 3 topics. Well, 3 categories, as you would call it. So first of all, silly. This will give us a minute to decompress from all the serious I've just taught. My thing I want to talk about this week is a woman on TikTok, I believe, maybe Instagram as well. Her name is Gigi, and I think I've seen this one before. She used to do like prank calls to like businesses and just did some really funny stuff. Her niche at the moment is the word clit and how many times she can get it into a sentence. So she'll go through a drive-through, she'll go into a shop and she'll just say clit all the time. And most recently she went and did karaoke and just said every other word as clit. And I think that really sums up my sense of humour. I remember, if anyone remembers, I'm sure you will, the show Dick and Dom in the Bungalow. Absolutely unbelievable show. And when they did Bogies, that was my favourite thing in the whole world. Guys! Oh, sorry to anyone who's an audio listener, that probably wasn't nice. But honestly, that was my favourite thing in the whole entire world. And I feel like this clit stuff is that on a different level. It's literally amazing. So I just wanted to speak about that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then where have you been? Probably holding down a job and reading books and becoming more knowledgeable. But you're missing out. And also, another thing I wanted to talk about in our silly segment, honestly, the amount of saliva I'm going to produce on this podcast is unbelievable with the amount of times I have to say this the S word. That just then for all those listening, nearly dropped my microphone, but it's okay. It's back. Yeah, my next thing is, what's it called? Oh no, now I'm gonna forget what it's called. Last One Laughing. It's the show on Amazon Prime, and it is where there's like the concept, if you haven't seen it, is essentially 10 comedians in a room trying to make each other laugh. If you laugh, you get a yellow card. If you laugh again, red card, you're out. They have 6 hours. The comedians also get a thing called a joker where they can perform. And it's unbelievable. The final's not out yet, I don't think. But it just reminds me of, so I went to drama school and you would have to do a lot of serious things. And I would always get the giggles. Even from drama in school, I remember every time that we were reading, I can't remember what book it was, but we were reading this one book and I remember it would also always say the word period, but as in like period of time. And I would just laugh. I try and do it playing along with the show, and I can't. The feeling of trying not to laugh is so difficult to manage, and the way that these comedians do it, and the way that they have to move their face and walk away, it is unbelievable. Because I try to do it every episode, and I try to like be like, yeah, I'm not laughing. Try and think of like, I don't know, sad thoughts, but what got me is, so I started from the beginning, and the first thing that got me, and this is not really a spoiler, so I will say it. Bob Mortimer just said that his favorite adhesive was PVA glue, and that floored me, and I couldn't move on from that. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, is honestly, it just makes you absolutely belly laugh, because I think half of the funniness, half of the reason it's so funny is watching people try not to laugh. I think that's sometimes even funnier than the jokes, because it's just hilarious. So highly recommend. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, although I hate Amazon, but big up. Anyway, number 2. Let's move on to a bit of Sapphic. Now, as I've said before, Sapphic is more going to be about the LGBT community as a whole. Now, one thing that has happened in the media this week is the terfs have won a gold medal in turfing, because they have done something completely pointless and just ignorant, and banned trans people from the Olympics, because it was clearly such a problem with the one person who has ever competed. And they really thought they ate with it. They're like, yeah. They think there's going to be loads of trans people crying at home going, fuck, I can't enter the Olympic for the bloody long jump now. Like, it's just bizarre. If you want to listen to someone who knows about sport, who knows about trans people, who knows actually what this is going to do to people, I would highly recommend listening to Nikki Hiltz. They are a non-binary American runner. I'm pretty sure they competed in the Olympics, and I think I could go on about it, but I just think they spoke about it so well, and it's from the best perspective, to be honest. So have a listen to what they have to say, because my opinion isn't as valid in this. Anyway, our snowflake topic this week, I'm actually going to link the two together. I'm going to talk, unfortunately, about the most horrible thing I've had to watch, which was the manosphere, and not in a way that I think the documentary was done badly. It just, we had to watch it in two halves because we were that angry. I felt this like anger building inside me, because I think when you protect yourself from these horrible spaces and you are in an echo chamber of kindness and love and respect and people who want other humans to have human rights, you forget that these people exist. You know that they do, but sometimes you just forget. And this was a stark reminder that these people have platforms and these people are influencing the next generation. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about this, because it's kind of relating to LGBT things. So, firstly, I would like to say I have seen a lot of rhetoric about which I can agree with to a certain extent. Like people just saying, "Oh, well, this is why you should follow more gay men," and women are always safe with gay men, and blah 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 blah. I completely agree. I know that the gay men I have in my life, I feel very safe with them. I really do. However, I have also experienced a lot of misogyny from gay men, especially as a lesbian. I think there was always this historic, beef and whatever there is between lesbians and gay people. But I think I have been in situations where there has been a lot of misogyny. I think sometimes, and obviously I can't speak for every gay person and I wouldn't want to, but sometimes I think gay men can excuse their misogyny and say, "Oh, but I'm only joking because I'm a gay man." And they say these things and they think that they can because they're a gay man. And I see it a lot because there's little comments that they make, and I get little comments about being a lesbian from gay men, and I see it a lot in the comedy circle with gay men who will use women and use lesbians as a butt of their jokes, and it's not funny. It's, if you want to make a platform and make a living from the expense of other people in your community and women who created you, then go on, but don't then deny it. I think that's what I find the problem is, when they think that they're exempt from that and they think that they're on the side of women. At the end of the day, they are still men, and I think they need to realize the privilege they have with that, and to be respectful in the way they talk about women, regardless of their sexuality. So that's one thing I want to say about it. So I think it's not completely excusing gay men from this, and knowing that there are probably still a lot of communities of gay men who find themselves in a manosphere type world where they don't believe that women are as good as them. So uh obviously, like, there is a difference between, so I do find myself making jokes about hating men, and it's generally about something sexist or something homophobic or something that a man has done. It's never attacking men for things that they can't, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I just think it's very well going, "Oh, I could never be attracted to a woman as a gay man," but chill out, because you can also be misogynistic. So don't think you are exempt just because you don't fancy us. Anyway, And also, that is another point, because you do get that in a lot of gay clubs. Gay men think it's okay to touch you, and just because they don't fancy you. That's like me just grabbing the balls of a straight man. Oh, sorry, I don't actually fancy you. I just did that because I could. That's it. It's not the point. You you're not exempt from consent because you don't fancy someone. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, moving on. Generally about the manosphere, because the big problem, a lot of it is straight men. However, I would really, really argue that a lot of these men could potentially be in the closet and not able to accept or understand their own sexuality. Now, a lot of this, they talk about women, they talk about how much they love women, they talk about, you know, how much they fancy women, how blah, blah, blah. But they, number one, obviously they don't have any respect for the women. But also everything they're doing is for the validation of others. And I'm not talking about women, the validation of the men around them. Like, I can't think of any of their names because they are that irrelevant to me, apart from HS Sticky Tocky, because it literally sounds like a puppet. It's the stupidest name ever. Anyway, everything they do is for their little cronies around them. Like that guy who has the podcast, the one who's awful and really, really offensive. I can't think what his name is, but when he gets those OnlyFans girls onto there, and every time he says anything, he is looking to his friends for approval, and he's looking to his audience to see the approval of little boys in his comments, and he's like, oh, that's all he needs. Like, I just think if I were a straight man, I would be wanting the approval of women more than the approval of men. I just think they're very obsessed with each other, and it's potentially gay, but they would never come to terms with that because they think of gay people as less, and they will just live an unhappy life as much as they can argue that they're so happy and they have everything they ever want. I don't think you are, bro. But anyway, so yeah, that was one insight to it. But I think one of the biggest things for me was the reactions when they were going into crowded spaces. And it was like when not little boys, but like teenage boys were coming up to them and saying, fuck women, and they were going, ooh, what have I done? That's not like, but they think that's okay. They think that's something to be proud of. And it's scary because unfortunately, with the way the internet is, it is this echo chamber of, if you're watching one type of video and your friend's watching one type of video and you're all sending each other those videos, that is all you see. That is your perspective on life. It's like, if I am around all my vegan friends who are all talking about animal rights, I will start thinking more about animal rights. I might end up going vegan. If I was in that circle every single day, that's what eventually happens to you. So these young boys, it's as if this is them combating loneliness. There's like, there was all these things about male loneliness, and males find it hard to form closer friendships and things. And I think it's as if, in order to make their friendships less feminine or less gay or whatever they want to think that talking about your feelings or friendship is, they have to then insult women and be derogatory against to women in order to kind of be okay with being around so many men. I don't know, it's so complex and worrying and scary, and it makes me, if I ever have a kid, not want to give him a phone. I think I was on that kind of cusp of social media when I was growing up, and I already struggled. I remember having people bullying me on this thing called Form Spring, which was like an anonymous thing, and it was horrible. And I just think the internet is so much worse now, and people are making money from being misogynists. And that is something I've seen a lot of discourse over, about making misogyny a hate crime, and I'm 100% for that. I don't understand why it's not. I think if someone was saying the things that they're saying about women, about a person of color, about someone who is gay, someone who is trans, it would be a hate crime. But it's okay to talk about women like that. Um, it, it's awful. And it's also the way that they are claiming this ownership over women and saying, I know what a woman wants, when they aren't women themselves. What have women done in this world? Women have invented nothing here. Women created you. And it's bizarre. And it comes from this, like, it's always those, so like that HS Tiki Toki, he's come from a single parent family. He's grown up with a woman and then has flipped the switch and gone, I'm going to be the most powerful man in the world. In his eyes, obviously, I don't think he is the most powerful man in the world, but he instead of going, I know that I have male friends who have sisters and grew up with their mums, and I know that they have, like, sometimes a lovely feminine touch about them, and you can tell that they've got sisters because they're so mindful of women and so respectful towards women, and I love that. But it's like these people have done the opposite. Also, I just want to add, especially the American ones, why are they all so ugly? Maybe it's because they've got ugly personalities and I find them ugly. Also, I am gay. However, I just think, is it because you're insecure, mate, that you've had to make your living from disrespecting women? Um, I would love to get a gang of butch lesbians in to interview these people, and maybe give them a little punch here and there. That's a dream, really, of mine. But yeah, and in terms of how the documentary was made, I know there's a lot of discourse around, is it, should it have been a woman doing it? Should it have been a man doing it? I think you couldn't have got a real insight into what they're doing if you hadn't have had a man. However, was Louis Theroux the best person for it? I personally think he's a fantastic person to do it, as he sometimes doesn't he doesn't ask questions sometimes. It's just the way that he lets there be silence in these moments that makes someone realize something. Like, it was a moment with the ginger guy in his penthouse, and he said something. He answered a question, and Louis was silent for a second. He goes, well, people are saying I'm a bad person. And he'd come to that conclusion himself without Louis even saying a word, which is great. However, I would say that for the audience like me, for the audience of critical thinkers, normal people who can understand it and look at it and go, wow, that's really not right. Great. However, for the young men who we are trying to get away from this manosphere, how they are going to think Louis Theroux is a little nerd. They're going to go, "Ah, this little weirdo nerd is thinking that he can, you know, he'll seem uncool to them because of the way that the people that they aspire to be like treat him, and the way they view him. That's going to have an impact on how they can watch that show. So I don't know if there's anyone who has been in the manosphere and has made their way out and been able to start living a normal life and start respecting women and realizing the wrongdoings and what they've done. I don't know if there is anyone like that, but maybe that would have been a better person. There probably isn't actually anyone who's got out of the manosphere, because it's, and also it's just the concept that this whole manosphere is then like an MLM scheme, and people they're making money from people being misogynists, and they're also making money from sex workers, and there's a lot to unpack. I feel like I'd need to sit and I'd need to talk about it for 4 hours to really understand it. But I just thought I'd touch on it pretty briefly today. But yeah, that is our episode for today, guys. I've been rambling on at you for a while. But if you haven't watched the manosphere, I would suggest having a look. I think it is so insightful as to what is happening, and it makes you aware and makes you, if you're a parent, if you're someone who's got nieces, nephews, uh, younger brothers, younger sisters, who have phones. It's about, we can't take these phones away from them. They are, if you take their phone, someone at school is going to have a phone. It's about teaching them critical thinking skills and teaching them how to be good people, teaching them to respect everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of how much money they've got. It's teaching our kids basic empathy, and none of these manosphere influencers have any empathy. And I mean, they don't have any critical thinking skills at all. It's just kind of learnt behavior, learnt toxic behavior. So I think that's the most important thing: teaching empathy, teaching kindness. And you can't shelter them from everything, unfortunately, but good people can see stuff and know what's wrong and know what's right, and that's the most important thing. But thank you so much, everyone. I will be back next week, maybe the week after. Maybe I'll be back tomorrow. Who knows? I'm probably not going to be back tomorrow, but thank you for listening. And if you've made it this far, thanks, because it really does mean a lot. I love yapping into this little microphone and making this content. So, love you. Bye.